Yeah, I think I'm speaking on behalf of the group to say we've just learned such an incredible amount from each one of you. And I think the key phrase, I know we're harping on what Sarah Jane said, is, I'm just a teacher. Ultimately, whether you're a psychologist or whether you've been in the teaching space or whether you've been a principal, regardless of the actual space you've been in, it's a teacher, and being a teacher is a superpower, ultimately. I think reminding ourselves of that is so important. So I'm going to steal just a couple of minutes before we kind of end off, just to speak about my own experience in the educational field. A little bit alternative. I think, I was one of the people put up my hand when I said, was teaching my calling? I believe yes. Did I know it was my calling? Absolutely not. In many, many ways, when someone said, oh, you'd make a great teacher. No, I don't think that's for me. Maybe law. Law seems like an interesting space. So it actually, I think it was grade 7 where I did my first aptitude test. Surprise, surprise, education was the recommendation in terms of the field I go into. That point wasn't too exciting to me to tell my other grade 7 friends that I was going into teaching. So held off, I'll see. We'll see what happens in high school. High school, thought about it. Again, many opportunity for me to teach my friends, which I love doing. Many opportunities for me to stand up in class and be the class captain and get to pretend to be teacher for little bits of time. Don't know if my peers enjoyed it as much as I did. But again, just moments where I thought, I'll hold off on that, I'll hold off. Ended up actually studying a Bachelor of Law degree, going into the University of Pretoria, with English as my second major and then psychology as my third. So triple major till third year. I think I can say it's the universe, I can say it's all of these things. I think subconsciously I always wanted teaching. I always wanted it there. I knew education, I didn't know what form, but I knew education was always a passion of mine. So I kept the English there just as a third year module so that I would always kind of have that as the background. And after that, did my honours in psychology because I just fell in love with the idea of working with kids. At that point, it felt like working with kids in the psychological space, which I still have a very big passion for and still love. And then it was during my kind of honours undergrad year where I started doing some volunteer work at Unica School for Children with Autism. Two things I really fell in love with here. One was just the hands-on contact with these students. Actually seeing them come in with all of these difficulties, neurodiverse, but not all the students had autism. It was a comorbid mix of things going on for them, along with difficult family dynamics, along with, it was a government school. There was a lot of resource elements that we were missing. And I was just my kind of little honors student. Let's see how this goes. Let's try it out. And I just absolutely fell in love with these kids. So I fell in love on one hand with the educational side, the actual teaching and working with them one-on-one. Also fell in love with the psychological side. How is it for these students who have these neurodiverse needs? As a teacher, how can we kind of guide them in a way that's going to be more relevant to them? So long story short, this then led to me doing my PGCE, my postgrad certificate in education. Chose to, of course, specialize in English. Can't specialize in law, it turns out. No one really wants to learn that in school kind of space. So specialized in English for matrics, so grade 8 to matrics. I give a lot of credit to those who can work with the younger students. I was scared of them. High schoolers at that point, to me at least, felt like this is the space to be in. And it was actually while I was doing my postgrad certificate in education that I fell into Genius, which I, again, will there point to the universe. But again, subconscious feeling, I think, from myself, I want to be in education. I don't know how, I don't know what I'm going to do, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I want to work with kids. So I began here as a tutor, tutoring English, as you can imagine, and tutoring academic coaching, which is a big part of what we do here at Genius. It's teaching study skills and students how to become independent, how to create timetables, how to become the best versions of themselves. And it was perfect for me because I felt like, finally, the love for psychology and the love for teaching can be combined. What I particularly loved in this time was the one-on-one connection I was able to build with my students. I still remember my first student now, who's actually, at that point, was grade 8. This year is at UCT studying law, and I do believe he's going to be president. 100%. I would vote for him, 100%. A couple of students have already gotten signatures, just in case we've got the thing set up. So essentially started at Genius in the tutoring space. Then as part of my practicum, so part of the teaching qualification, I wanted to obviously spend time in a schooling space. I didn't yet know where my passion lay in education, just that it was in teaching. So I went and spent a couple of years at Edenvale High School. And sorry, I don't for giving school names, but good things to say. I spent some time at that school teaching grade 8s and 9s, mathematics, actually. Say yes. I did prep a lot. I prepped for every lesson, mainly because, teaching mathematics, so I really had to revise. But yeah, I think what I really learned in my couple of years of teaching in the mainstream environment, at least, is, I think a lot of you have said something similar, most students aren't meant for the mainstream environment. They're there because they don't unfortunately have often the opportunities or the allowances from their families to be in other environments. And so what I had to learn very quickly is, as I don't know how old I was, we'll call it 24, as a 24-year-old teacher, how to work with a class of 30 students who are so diverse in needs, diverse in interest of school, diverse in family upbringing, diverse in just, a million different ways. A particular memory that stands out to me is, just talking about the courage, how important it is to not be scared, is I was put on break duty. And I'm thinking, okay, got this. First year teacher, but I'm going to be strong. I'm going to, show them I know what I'm doing. And I was on break duty, realizing break duty is grade 8 to grade 12. They've got some gangs walking around. Some people are threatening everyone. And I'm there thinking, I can break up a fight. It's fine. We'll be fine. And once or twice, little fights broke out. Try to get in there. Was not my forte, needless to say. But when I think back on the teaching moments now, what I remember is the students who are often the naughtier students coming to me at break, saying, ma'am, please, can we sit in your class? Ma'am, do you have 5 minutes after class to chat? And just those connecting moments. I did hear stories I probably shouldn't have heard. I did have to report a couple of stories I heard. The student was aware I had to report it. But yeah, I feel a lot of what everyone's saying here, which is ultimately you become the advocate for these kids. And it's so important to then do what's in their best interest. Anyway, back to kind of the genius space that I found myself in now. So in teaching, loving working one-on-one with these kids. Unfortunately, most of my time was not spent working one-on-one with these kids, and had stepped away from the tutoring to finish the practicum for the teaching, ended up staying quite a bit there, and then moved back into Genius in what we call the educational leadership role. So quite a few people here put up their hands, I think on the survey put up their hands, for just exploring different and alternative routes in education. And I'd say I'm a good advocate of that, not only in experience, but just in terms of love. I love just the different routes and alternatives in the educational field. I think there's so much that's on offer, which we forget when you become a teacher. When you have a PGCE or a BEd, or even just a tutoring kind of background, we learn so many skills, and that opens a whole lot of doors for us. So, end up as Genius, at Genius, and as an education leader, thinking, okay, got a couple of years of teaching, I'm ready, I know what I'm doing, give me the students. And sure, was open to a whole world of new possibilities. One-on-one tuition, very different to a class of 30 students. Feels like it should be easier, but you get emotionally connected. You work with these students, or I have at Genius, worked with these students, psychologists, with their teachers, because we go into schools as education leaders. We get to know everyone that's in their lives. I too have sat in parents' boardrooms. Lawyers in top companies, and they're in tears, because their 16-year-old drank a Savannah last night, And fair, I get it. I get the concern in this world. It's terrifying. It's so terrifying to be a teacher, Freudian slip, to be a parent. It's terrifying. So what I've really, I think, loved about this education leadership space is, firstly, I'm still just a teacher, still working with these kids daily, be it in a mentoring space over a cup of coffee or over a game of bowling, which sometimes calms the kids down, gets them to relax a little bit. Other times it's firmer meetings with mom and dad present, where we're coming up with, agreements. What are we going to do here to make sure homework's getting done and things are getting sorted? I am so privileged to get to work with incredible teachers like those sitting in front of us, with incredible educational psychologists and other psychologists. And I'm so privileged to every day from this company get to learn so many tools and hints and tips in terms of education that either will set me up, in my view, to go back into the education field if that's where I kind of end up, or to go into the psychology field if that's where I end up, or to stay here and dominate in a different educational space, which I'm pretty sure is going to be where I end up ultimately. So I don't have yet 30 years of teaching experience or 40 years of teaching experience, but I do want to just give a couple of hints and tips that I've learned along the way at Genius, both as a tutor and as an education leader. The first one aligns with what a lot of everyone I think tonight has just kind of hinted at or alluded to, which is build rapport with your students. There's a student of mine from Edenvale, which, sure, don't know if I'd want to bump into him now. His name was Levon. And I remember him day one of me being a teacher. I'm so young, and he dragged his chair. And he looked at me, and he turned his chair backwards and sat down and just looked at me, just to challenge me. And in that moment, I felt frustrated, and I think I left. I don't remember actually doing anything, but I wanted to berate him or say something just to let him know how frustrated I was. Now looking back, what Genius has taught me is I should have chatted to him, talked to him after class, build rapport. Whether you've got 30 kids in your class or 20 kids in your class, or you're doing one-on-one tuition, there are so many opportunities to connect, and we forget that. When your student is coming to your desk, ma'am, can I grab a glass of water? Opportunity to connect. When your student is coming in at break, because, I just don't want to sit outside today, opportunity to connect. It does take extra time, it does take effort from us, but building rapport with a student is the key, in my view, to getting them to succeed in education. Second tip, struggle time. Struggle time is a hint at the silence, accepting the silence, embracing it. Students will want your help because why? They love you, they depend on you, they want assistance, they want support. But struggling is so important. Why? It's us teaching them that we believe in them. We believe in you so much that we're going to let you struggle and figure out the answer. Maybe a little hint or tip slips through, but for the most part, you've got this. So that was a big kind of memory for me, just struggle time. It's something that I try to give myself every now and then as well. But specifically with kids, it's so important. The third kind of key thing I've learned at Genius is not to listen to be understood, but to listen to understand. I think we've all experienced the feeling when you're sitting with someone in front of you and you're busy, discussing something that's really heavy on your heart, and while you're talking, their mouth's moving a little bit, or you can see they want to participate, they want to respond. And students can feel that internally. What we need to remember is the students we're working with, again, be it at Genius or be it in a schooling environment, have parents who are often very busy, or parents who are unfortunately quite absent. So they aren't listened to. They've got a brother who's doing much better than them academically, so he's the focus at home. They've got friends who've just told them that they can't actually be in the group anymore. They need to find a new group of friends. They aren't being heard and listened to in the way that they deserve to be heard and listened to. So we've got a little tool at Genius, let you into our world a little bit. It's called Welcome into My World. It's the idea of having a student in front of you, or a parent, or a partner, whoever it is, and just saying to them, okay, I'd like you to welcome me into your world. And all I'm going to do is reflect. I'm not going to interrupt. I'm not going to respond with, oh, shame, are you okay? Is everything fine? I'm not going to give advice. I'm just going to let you just welcome me into your world. I'm not going to mess it up. I'm just going to listen. So the student would say, I'd like to welcome you into my world. Are you willing? Yes. They would give you all of the information about their day or what's going on for them. And this is the toughest part of all. It feels easy. It's tough. I really recommend you all try it this evening when you get home. But all you get to do in that moment is reflect. Why? Because you're saying to that student, you matter, you're important. So ultimately, my role as an education leader, a little bit different to the teaching space. I teach tutors on a daily basis how to be better educators to their students. I teach students on a daily basis, sometimes English, a little bit of English, not maths. Moved away from the maths. A little bit of English, but primarily just how to be stronger human beings. And stronger means sometimes just embracing themselves, just being heard, just being listened to. I teach parents how to be parents. It's interesting. It's interesting. It always feels like it's easy to be a parent till you're a parent, I think. It's a lot easier to give the advice than to embrace it yourself. But a lot of teaching in that space. And I'm teaching my colleagues every day. Just, we brainstorm, we discuss in the kitchen how to kind of be better educators. And I'm teaching myself every day through podcasts, through YouTube videos, through discussions with people like yourselves this evening. So ultimately, the reason we had this event this evening, this Genius Leadership Academy event, is because I have a very soft spot for people in the educational field. I won't say teachers, just everybody in the educational field. Sometimes it's a lonely space. It's a lot to navigate. So please reach out if you have any questions to me, to others in my team, whether you're interested in the educational leader position, whether you're interested in connecting to any of our speakers who I'm sure would be willing to give advice. But ultimately I'll leave us with the kind of passing thought of, of the, I think it was about 400 people who applied to this event. We cut it down to around 40. So like 10%, even less a little bit, I think it was 8 to 10% of the people who applied are sitting here. And these are the people who we believe are going to go and change the educational landscape, be innovative, be different, and just make their mark. So good luck, everybody. We look forward to continuous chats and just seeing what everyone does. Thanks.